Hello, third graders. This is Math Expressions 2018 edition, Unit 4, Lesson 7, again for third grade. In this lesson, we need to do some cutting out. On page 265A, you're going to see this clock and these little arrows that need to be cut out with precision. So pause the video, cut this part of page 265A out for this paper clock, and come back once you have attached the clock hands to this center point of the clock face using a prong fastener. If you don't have a prong fastener, you can also use a pencil to put on these black dots overlapped in the middle to help you adjust the hour hands. Pause the video now. Make your analog clock. Welcome back. We're going to move on to page 265. In this unit, or this part of the unit, we are going to be learning how to tell time on a digital clock as well as an analog clock. In this lesson specifically, we are going to start by learning how to tell time to 15 minutes. Now, I don't have a paper clock that's going to be easy for me to show you, so I'm going to use the iTools clock. And one of the first things that I want to go through with you is how this clock is set up. You can see that there's a 12 at the top, but the 1 is over here. Now, we all know, or most of us probably remember, that this is 12 o'clock or midnight. But what I also want to point out are these little tick marks on this analog clock. Specifically right now, I want to point out where it is numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to do some drawing on here. Do you see how I'm jumping from number to number? Oop, that one was a little off right there. Each of these jumps represent 5 minutes. So from the 12 to the 1, you should see, you start at the 12 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every time you see this tick mark, 5 minutes has passed. One group of 5 is 5. So I'm going to write a few more 5s on here. When you get down here to the 3, there are 3 groups of 5, or 5, 10, 15 minutes that have passed by. So each of these tick marks represent 5. And if I wanted to know what time it was, I could say, well, first, how many minutes after the hour does the clock show? And how do you know? And we're going to be thinking about each of these numbers on the inside here. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Each of these numbers on the inside here are groups of 5. Let's go ahead and start looking at the problems to get a better understanding of what I'm talking about here. Our directions are asking us to write the time on the digital clock, then write how to say the time. Well, I'm going to zoom into these problems a bit further so that it's easier for me to write on my screen with you. So have patience with me as I figure out the best way to do this. All right, so down here is where we are going to put the digital time, and up here is our analog clock. So the first question is, how many minutes after the hour does this show? This fatter, shorter hand points to the hour. This skinnier, a bit longer hand points to the minutes. And we know that since it's pointing straight up, no time past the hour has elapsed. So I would say that there are no minutes past the hour. And if I look at the small hand, or the little short fat one here, it is pointing to the 9. So I would say this clock is at 9 o'clock. Let's take a minute here to write that down. Okay, and so you can see that I wrote 9-0 apostrophe clock. And that's one way that we are going to write this time. Let's take a look at number 2. Again, that longer hand, the minute hand, is pointing straight up to the 12. So no minutes have passed in our clock. So I'm going to write the minutes as 0, 0. And the short hand, the small hand, the fatter hand, is pointing to 11. So I know that the time, the hour, is 11. The way we would say this one is 11 o'clock. Are you with me? Let's keep going. Number 3. Well, I see what they're doing here. They've got a pattern with these minute hands. Neither number 3 nor number 4 have any minutes that have elapsed past the hour. Because it's pointing straight up to the 12, I know that my minutes are at 0. For number 3, my small hand is pointing to the 1. So I know that the time represented on this analog clock is 1 o'clock. Number 4, I can see that the minutes are at 0. And my small, thicker hand is pointing to the 6. So I know that the time is 6 o'clock. Remember, if you have any questions, write them down or ask an adult to help you write them down, and contact your teacher right away. Each of 1 through 4 is exactly on the hour: 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and finally 6 o'clock. Let's keep going. Write the time on the digital clock. Write 2 ways to say the time. Now we're going to start thinking outside the box a little bit. And it looks like each of these have a minute time that is definitely going past the hour. So I'm going to use a strategy of skip counting to show you how we can tell how many minutes after the hour this time shows. So if I'm starting at 12, I'm going to go and I'm going to count by 5s. I'm going to start here. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. Each of these jumps represent 5 minutes. And if we remember back from when we were talking about our multiplication units, we know that 9 groups of 5 is the same as 9 times 5, and that equals 45. So we know that the minutes past the hour is 45. Now let's look at this bigger, thicker, not longer, shorter. I'm trying to describe it the best of my ability. This is not pointing directly to an hour. It's not pointing to 8 o'clock, nor is it pointing to 9 o'clock, but it's somewhere in between. So because we're going to have to think about this, what time is it? We know 45 minutes has passed, so we are in between hours. It's in between the 8 and the 9. It's not at the 9 yet, which means we are still in the 8 o'clock hour. So I'm going to write down the 8 right here. Our time is 8:45. Pause the video to see if you can think of 2 ways to tell me what time this represents. I came up with, well, the first one that I just said, 8:45. That's one way you can tell me what time this clock says. But you could also say 8:45. Now think about how much is a quarter worth. If you're thinking 25 cents, you're right. Well, we were talking about fractions a little bit before we started this unit. A quarter of a whole, if you recall, the unit fraction would be 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. And do you see this value right here? That is 1/4 of the whole hour. And that is why we can also say 8:45. Number 6. Let's start with the first question. How many minutes past the hour does this clock represent? Well, I'm going to skip count. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Or 6 groups of 5. There are 30 minutes past the hour. Well, it is in between, or this shorthand is in between the 6 and the 7. So it's not 7 o'clock yet, which means we are still in the 6 o'clock hour. And so if I write the 6 o'clock hour in here, I can now see that the time is what? Pause the video and write down 2 ways that you can say this time. If you were thinking 6:30 is one way that you could say this time, you're right. Another way to say this time is 6:30. Again, thinking about this analog clock as a fraction will help us with that. If I split this analog clock in half here, half of the time of the hours have gone by, which is why we can say 6:30. Number 7 and number 8. Pause the video now and see if you can figure out how many minutes after the hour does this clock show? How do you know? Where is the hour hand? Can you say it 2 different ways? Resume the video once you've come up with your answers to check to see how you did. Here's what I came up with. For number 7, there are 15 minutes past the hour. The hour hand is in between the 3 and the 4, so I know it's not 4 o'clock yet, which means it's still 3 o'clock. So this time on this analog clock is showing 3:15 or 3:15. Number 8, I can see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That minute hand is pointing to the 9, so 9 groups of 5 is 45. There are 45 minutes past the hour, and the hour hand is in between the 2 and the 3. It's not 3 o'clock yet, which means it's still 2 o'clock. So the time on this analog clock is showing 2:45 or 2:45. Let's repeat the process for 9, 10, 11, and 12. Pause the video. Come up with your times, how many minutes are after the hour. Think about, how do you know that? Where is the hour hand? and say it 2 different ways. Resume the video once you are ready to check your answers. All right, third graders, here are your answers for 9, 10, and 11, and 12. 9 is 1:30 or 1:30. 10 is 4:45 or 4:45. 11 is 12:15 or 12:15. 12 is 10:45 or 11:15. Hopefully this is starting to make a little bit more sense to you. Now we're going to specifically look at that quarter of an hour. We are going to draw the hands on the analog clock and then write the time on the digital clock. I'd like you to pause the video now and try it out for yourself. It says 9:15. Where would the minute hand go? Where would the hour hand go? Try it out and come back and check your answers for 13 through 18 on here. All right, third graders, let's take a look at how we showed time to 15 minutes. So 15, 30, 45, and back up to the 12 o'clock, which is 0 minutes or 60 minutes have elapsed. So number 13, they said 9:15. I have written the hour minute in red, the minute hand in red and the hour hand in purple. Make sure I say that correctly. So I drew the red minute hand out here to the 15, 5, 10, 15. And if you needed to, or maybe you made a mistake on that, you can always go around the outside 5, 10, 15 as you are learning how to do this and getting used to using an analog clock. And because I knew it was past 9 o'clock, but not quite 10 o'clock, I put my hour hand kind of pointing towards the middle there. And you'll notice that for this 14, I did the same thing. It was past 7 o'clock, but not quite 8 o'clock, so I pointed it towards the middle there. And we knew half past is all the way down here to show half of our circle, half of our analog clock, so it's 7:30. Number 15, 3 o'clock. You can see that my minute hand is pointing straight up to the 12 there and straight at the 3 o'clock because it's 3 o'clock on the dot. 7:30 looks like this. 30 minutes past the hour is pointing towards that 6. 6 groups of 5 is 30. And we know that it's 7:30, so it's not 8 o'clock yet, but it's past 7, so we pointed towards the middle there. And I'll let you take a look at those. If you need to pause the video to double check your answers, make sure that you do that so that you can compare what you've done with what I've done here. Number 19 is asking you to complete this table and to think about this. Times of daily activities. 3:15 a.m. If it's 3:15 in the morning, is it light or dark outside? Hopefully you said dark. What part of the day is that? Well, let's look at what it says here. These annotations right here, AM and PM. AM is the morning, meaning it's before that midday. There's a big fancy word for it, but what you need to remember right now in 3rd grade is that AM is the morning, PM is afternoon or evening. And so we know how to think about that. 3:15 a.m. If somebody showed up at my house, what part of the day is that? I would say that is the middle of the night or early morning. What activity are you doing at 3:15? And if any of you say video games, I would not accept that answer as your teacher. What are you supposed to be doing at 3:15 in the morning? Sleeping. 8 a.m. Is it light out or dark out? What part of the day is it? What activity are you usually doing at 8 a.m.? If you're in my class, you're waiting outside to come into the school. 2:30 p.m., 6:15 p.m., 8:45 p.m. You're going to answer these questions and submit it to your teacher for feedback. Moving on with lesson 7, we are going to be more specific with the time that we are practicing. And so in this part of the lesson, you are going to be telling me the time to 5 minutes. So on these here, 5, 10, 15, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to write the time on the digital clock down here, and then you're going to write how to say the time below. So first question, how many minutes after the hour does this clock show? Well, if I need to go back and remember, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So I know it's 40 minutes past the hour. And let's look at our hour hand. It's in between the 2 and the 3. So it's not 3 o'clock yet. So it's still 2 o'clock. So I'm going to say that the time is 2:40. And, well, what could I say? Well, I could say specifically that it's 2:40. Or I could say it's 20 minutes until 3, or 20 until 3. And I chose to type it this time for a little speed. Pause the video. Write the time on the digital clock, then write how to say the time 2 different ways on the lines. When you're done, come back and check your answers with my answers. Let's take a look at 20 through 25 and compare what you have to what I have. For 20, we already said that it was 2:40. And I said you could say 2:40 or 20 minutes until 3. 21, I said that it was 1:20, 20 minutes past 1 or 20 minutes after 1. For number 22, I said the time was 3:35. So if I needed to slow down and talk about this again, I would first ask myself, how many minutes after the hour does this show? Well, I know that my minute hand is pointing to the 7, and 7 groups of 5 is 35. So that's how I knew how many minutes there were after the hour. And then I looked at the hour hand. It's in between the 3 and the 4. So it's not 4 o'clock yet, so it's still 3 o'clock. That's how I knew where the hour hand, what the hour hand was telling me. So 3:35 is how I said it there. And I know I asked for you to think of 2 different ways. You could also say 25 minutes until 4. Number 23, 5:25, or 35 minutes until 6. Number 24, 7:50, or 10 minutes until 8, or 10 to 8. 25, 10:10. You could see it on the digital clock down here, but you could also say 10 minutes after 10. 26 through 31 are asking you to take this phrase and write the time on the digital clock. Let's work through this together. Number 26, 10 minutes after 8. So how many minutes after the hour did it tell us? Well, it tells us that there's 10 minutes after, and the hour is 8. So the time is 8:10. Number 27 says 7:25. How many minutes after the hour? There are 25 minutes after the hour. And what is the hour? It's 7. Number 28, 11:50. Well, I like that this one is in order. 26, you had to think about that a little bit more. 28 is pretty straightforward, just like 27. 11 is the hour. 50 is the minutes. 29, another straightforward one. 6:40. The hour is 6 o'clock. 40 minutes are how many minutes have gone by after the hour. 30, 5 minutes after 3. This is one of those turnaround ones. It's telling you that the hour is 3 o'clock. And it's 5 minutes after. So you don't just write 5. Notice that all up here, there are 2 digits, 2 digits, 2 digits, 2 digits. I have to have 2 digits. So we need 0 as a placeholder, 305. Or one of the ways we would say that is 305. Number 31, 4:55. Straightforward. The hour is 4 o'clock. 55 is the minutes. Let's move right along with the lesson here. Don't forget, you can pause anytime and go back. Now we're going to look at the 1 minute. So we know where the 5s are, so we can skip count by 5s and then count by 1s to nail it down to know the exact time down to the minute. You're going to write the time on the digital clock, then write how to say the time. Let's look at 32. Well, I'm going to do in red my 5s. So how many minutes past the hour are we? 5, 10, 15 minutes past the hour. But we didn't stop there. Now we kept going. And if I had to draw a line, I think I'm going to have to look at this closely. Give me a second to get my glasses on. Oh, this is requiring some precision here. So I'm going to zoom in and I've got my glasses on. This arrow is pointing to that minute mark. So I would say that it's 15, 16, 17. So the minutes after the hour, I would say, are 17. And my hour hand is in between the 9 and the 10. So it's not 10 o'clock yet. It's still 9 o'clock, which makes this time 9:17. All right, third graders, so we've established that the time on this clock is 9:17 from the analog clock. We've written it on the digital clock, and this is how I would say it in words, 9:17, spelling counts. Number 33. I've used the red line to show my skip counts of 5s. And so if I look here, I've got 4 groups of 5, so that's 20. And then I used the green to count the minutes. So 20, 21, 22. So the minutes past the hour are 22. Where's the hour hand? Well, it's kind of overlapping our minute hand here. It's in between the 4 and a 5. So that means it's not 5 o'clock yet, so it's still 4 o'clock. So the time is 4:22. And there it is written. And don't forget that dash in between 22. Number 34. My 5s, there are 6 groups of 5s that have gone by. You can see that in red. So I know that that's half past the hour or 30 minutes. And then you can see in green that my minute hand is 2 more. So 30, 31, 32. So the minutes past the hour are 32. My hour hand is over here in between the 8 and the 9. It's not 9 o'clock yet. It's still 8 o'clock. So the time according to this clock is 8:32. 35, 36, and 37. You might want to do like I did. Skip count by fives and then use a little line to do the minutes. Pause the video now. See if you can guess. Well, I don't think guess is the right word. See if you can evaluate what time it is on this analog clock. Write it in the digital clock space down below, and then write it in words to tell me what time it is. Resume the video once you've gotten your answers recorded to check what you have with mine. 35 is 5:38, and that's the way it's written in words. 36 is 6:11, and you can see it written in words. 37, the time is 3:48, and here it is written in words. Mind that dash in the middle here. 38, 39, 40, and 41, you are going to again practice writing the time on the digital clock. Let's work this together. 10:14. Well, how many minutes are past the hour? According to this, there are 14, and the hour is 10 o'clock. 39, 52 minutes after 8. So we know that the minutes are 52 and the hour is 8. Number 40, 7:28. That one's pretty straightforward. The hour is 7 and the minutes are 28. Number 41, 9:31. Another straightforward one. The hour is 9 o'clock and the minutes are 31. Don't neglect the check for understanding. This is how your teacher is going to know if you understand the most important topics from today. Use your own analog clock, or you can use the iTools clock to show the time is 1:26. And write the time in word form on your math board. Well, you don't have your math board. So for my students, you can do it down below here, or you can add another page using Kami. If you have a different teacher and you're watching this video, make sure you check with your teacher how to submit your check for understanding. Don't forget to stop the video, go back, pause, move around as you need to, and always, always, always ask your teacher for help when you have questions, because that is how you learn.